In React, we often get confused when to use callback, what are the implications if we don't use it, and sometimes we simply avoid using it when we should not. So in this video, we'll cover all those cases. So I have created a ref here which holds handle on update function. This is just to compare that on every render, whether the function is being recreated or not. And then that's the whole point of using use callback basically. So there are two hooks, use callback and use memo. And use memo we use to memorize the values, and use callback we use to memorize a function. For example, I'll create one state called count. We'll keep the initial value to 0, and on click we'll increase the count by 1. Now if I refresh the page, it says false because on initial render the function is not getting recreated. But if I increase the count, then it gets true. Now this is where we have to use callback to memorize this function. How to use it? Basically, we have to wrap this function inside use callback hook. And this can have dependencies. So if we keep the dependency as empty, then this function will get created only once. So now if I refresh this and increase the counter, it will always be false because the function is not getting recreated. But if I add a count as a dependency here, then every time the count changes, it will get recreated. The interesting thing about this is that this is true for primitives data type, because primitive data type directly hold values. But if we change this to an array, let's keep the initial value. Array of one element which has value of 1, we'll keep the dependency as array, and set array. On set array, we'll do the same thing. We'll keep the value same. But now if you notice, even after the value is same on set array, the function is getting recreated. Why? Because arrays are compared by their reference. So every time we are setting a array, it's creating a new reference for the array. So it's not actually comparing the values, it's comparing the reference. And reference is basically, it's a reference to a value in a memory. So that's why on each set, the reference changes and this function gets recreated. This is probably not the best example, but just to showcase it, how to use it in the combination of use effect and use callback, I have made these two layouts. First one shows the count and second one shows the square value of the count. Basically, every time we change the count, we want to square that count value and show it here. But if we do it now, nothing will happen because we are not doing anything on set count. But if I add the count as a dependency here in use effect and set square, we do count into count. Again, the result you will see might not be the expected one because every time we do this, nothing happens. Why? Because the use callback hook here had no dependency. So this function got created only once, and when it got created, that time the value was 0 because the initial value of the count is 0. So even so this is where the closures come in. So it got count values enclosed in the handle call on update. Now since this is not getting recreated, we'll never have the new count value even if the component re-renders. To fix this, we can simply put count as a dependency. So every time now count changes, the values should update.